What's up, guys? Welcome into episode 101 here on the Missed Call Podcast. This is Cub Wood here with Sauce Sartori and special guest, former Gonzaga Bulldog, Geno Crandall. Geno, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. Of course, we're super excited for you to be here. You're a phenomenal basketball player. Just looking through some of the things that you've done in your basketball career, you've had an interesting journey, to say the least,
Definitely.
and you've gotten to do a lot of cool things. You won 3 state titles in high school. You were a 1,000-point scorer at the University of North Dakota, and you actually got to play in the Final Four with Gonzaga. I think maybe, though, the coolest thing that you've done is you were the #1 play on SportsCenter's top 10.
Yeah, no, by far probably my career accomplishment.
How crazy was that, and how busy was your phone? Like your phone had to be blowing up. You're #1 on ESPN's top 10. That's like a crowning achievement.
Yeah, no, that whole that night was pretty crazy because it was our senior night at Gonzaga, and so obviously you just get a whole bunch of congratulatory texts about playing for 4 years and whatever, and good luck texts and stuff, and then to pile on top of that, having the #1 play on SportsCenter was kind of like. My phone was just blowing up all night. I actually had turned it off because I had family in town and stuff that night, and I just wanted to kind of enjoy the night and didn't want my phone vibrating for 3 hours straight. But no, it was really cool just to kind of have that moment for myself, and then have that moment for all my friends and family to be able to tell people that would have been watching with them or whatever. They're like, yeah, that's it's Geno, that's my friend or my brother, my cousin, whatever it might have been.
That's literally like a childhood dream. It's like make it pro and then be on SportsCenter top 10.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was at the time it was insane. It's like you said, it's just one of those things that you think of. You watch SportsCenter, every morning when you're a kid, and you imagine yourself in that situation, and then to have it happen was a pretty cool thing.
So do they call you and let you know? You're like, hey, Geno, this is ESPN. We just want to let you know you're going to be in the top 10. Because I would assume if they didn't do that, there would for sure be a way where somebody just didn't get to see their highlight play on ESPN.
No, yeah, they honestly don't do anything like that. There's I imagine there's people all the time that just have no idea. I remember one time, I want to say it was my junior year when I was at North Dakota. I think I had the #6 play or something for a buzzer beater from half court, just in the halftime. It wasn't even that crazy of a play. It must have been a slow news day or whatever. But and I get back to the hotel room later that night, and somebody sends me a video did you see you were on SportsCenter? And it's 6 hours later. I'm like, no, I had no idea. Thanks, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
I would just imagine. I would assume that would be the high point in a lot of people's lives and careers. Not saying that is the case for you, because obviously you're doing bigger and better things now overseas in the Czech Republic. But I'm just living in this world where if I made it to the ESPN top 10 and nobody told me and I didn't see it and I found out later, I'd be like, well, there was my 15 minutes.
Right. No, definitely. It's crazy for about 15 minutes. Yeah. And then it was just oh, well, reruns come on and nobody's interested anymore. I saw it already, so whatever.
Yeah, I'm most definitely. So you started at North Dakota. You're from Indianapolis. You moved just south to North Dakota, and then you were the go-to guy there, to say the least, right? And understandably, basketball is a team game, but you were a big reason for the team making it to its first ever March Madness back in 2016. Then you transferred to Gonzaga, and you became a backup for Josh Perkins. So you've lived in both of these roles where you are the guy, and then you're also the guy who helps in different ways. What's the biggest thing that you learned between working in those two roles?
I think probably, and it's something you probably hear from a ton of people, with just learning how to there's different ways to help, obviously, and like there's being a star. Every situation you just have to be a star in your role. So like when I was at North Dakota, I think my role was more to have the ball in my hands, almost all the time, to either score or try and create something for somebody else. And kind of be the guy that a lot of weight was on my shoulders. Like I carried that weight with other people for sure. But especially, the older I got, from my freshman year, I was probably, the second option. And then my sophomore year, I was probably, 1A and 1B with another player, Quentin Hooker. And then my junior year, I was probably, the number one guy. So like having a star in those roles, and then just, having to accept a different role, but wanting to be a star in that same role when I got to Gonzaga.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting to kind of, I mean, I don't say this as a slight, but kind of have to take that step back and be like, okay, how do I be, like you said, how do I be a star in this role? It's definitely an interesting thought process for somebody like me who's never going to be in that situation. But I can only imagine what it was like for you. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Geno, what was like the biggest challenge for you to transfer from a small D1 school to a big powerhouse like Gonzaga?
That's tough. I don't know. The coaching staff, the entire community, the faculty, everybody kind of made the transition like really easy. In some ways, Gonzaga, it's a big school basketball wise, but it's only a school of about 4,000 students, undergrad. So it wasn't like there was, a huge change in that sense. There's a ton less students in that North Dakota. So I think it gave a lot of people like the opportunity to kind of slowly fill me into just life on campus. And then basketball, there weren't a ton of challenges. I think the first couple games were a little bit faster, just playing against tougher competition every day, where opposed is when you're at the smaller schools, you might have 2 or 3 games against, a high major team. And then when you're out there at Gonzaga, you're getting, everybody's best shot every night, and you're playing a lot better teams. So probably the first couple games might have been a challenge, but after that, I would say the transition was pretty smooth in a sense that, nothing really changed or was too crazy.
And you talk about playing those better teams, during that senior year when you were there, you guys played Illinois, Arizona, UNC, Baylor, FSU, Texas Tech in the Final Four, but you also played Duke in the Maui Invitational as kind of like the preseason, if you will. And that was during that hype where Zion Williamson was the only thing the media wanted to talk about. What was that like, being in the same area as him, being in the same stadium as him? Where like, what was that frenzy like? Did you get to look at it from afar?
Yeah, a little bit. It was crazy. Again, just coming from a smaller basketball school and going to that kind of environment, being in Maui where there's cameras on you all the time. And especially with Zion is where the other the rest of the ESPN cameras, they're like getting the teams as they walk in, or they'll catch a glimpse of the players here and there, and it's like with Zion, the camera was on him all the time. It wasn't turning to find him. It was on him the whole time. So just seeing that dynamic and was really cool to watch, and was really impressed with how he handled that, being as young as he was. And and then just the environment in general, like Maui is crazy. It's probably more fun than the NCAA tournament, just because you're in this like really small gym. Everybody's packed on top of each other. It's super hot, and you got the best college players in the country all in one building. So it was super fun. It was a great experience.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I was gonna comment quickly the way that you say, like, maybe occasionally they'll catch the teams walking in and stuff like that. But with Zion, they're so fixated on him. Imagine being 19 and having the whole world focused on you. It's gotta be an overwhelming feeling.
Yeah, no, it has to be. I can't even imagine, especially at that age, 18, 19, you just have those many eyes on you and that much pressure. But again, like I said, I think he handled it perfectly. The brief, conversations you have during and after the game. I mean, he seems like a great kid. Obviously, every interview he's done, I feel like he's aced it. So, it seems like a ton of pressure, but if anybody is able to handle it, I mean, so far it appears like it's him. So,
a lot of people say that like really good basketball players are like the greatest athletes you'll ever see, have like an aura to them. Does Zion have that even though he's like 19? Does he have that aura?
I would say that he has something along that sense. I think just in the way that he carries himself and the way that he's elevated, by the media around him and everything, is that there's kind of a sense of, he's got like a certain walk to him and where he knows his abilities. And
you got that certain walk to you too, I would assume.
I don't know. I might try to fake it every now and then, but
I had a teacher in high school who preached to us, fake it until you make it.
No, definitely. Definitely.
I got to ask, is he at all overrated in your opinion?
I don't believe so. He's a great player, a very good basketball player. I think he has a ton of potential to grow. I think it's hard to overrate someone when they're 20 years old, because you don't know what they're going to be in 5-10 years. Just in my experience personally, and that's how I view it. Sometime down the line, maybe somebody could look back and say that, okay, maybe we thought higher of him at the time than he was able to achieve. But I mean, I think he's earned almost everything that has been said about him. So.
Well, and I would imagine it's probably kind of difficult for you as a basketball player to sit here and opine over the abilities of another basketball player. It's like, we're just ballers, man. We're just out here balling.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an element of that. I mean, I think it's for any competitor in any field, you're gonna, view someone in your same field achievements differently than someone who hasn't lived it and experienced it. But I think that also gives other, basketball players a perspective to say that, no, wow, like this kid is really good. Like, whereas some person might think it's crazy that he can do a 360 dunk, we might be able to appreciate how quickly he's able to play in passing lanes and how smart he is, defensively, and how he always positions himself in the right spot for rebounds. So, there's a sense of like some of the stuff he does, it's like, okay, we see it every day. And then there's also, the perspective where you can say like, but I've been around basketball for a long time, and there's stuff he does that you don't see every day as well. So,
last question about Duke. Zion went number 1 overall, and then RJ went 3rd. Who do you think is gonna have a better career?
Cub, just to preface your answer, Cub really, really, really wants you to say RJ because he's a big Knicks fan.
Are you? Okay, man. Well, since I'm on your show, I wanna give you the nod and say that RJ Barrett will, but I personally feel that Zion's in a really good situation for him right now, and it's tough. I mean, I think with a lot of the younger guys, the situation you're put in can have a big effect on how well your career is going to play out. And I think New Orleans has, I think they have the management, I think they have the coaching, and I think they have players that really fit with what they're trying to do. And I think Zion fits into that well. Not saying New York doesn't. They're trying, but
no, they don't. They don't have it. They don't have
it. New York is just hard, an abysmal franchise. It's just an abysmal franchise. It's a dark hole.
And it's tough. You're in the Big Apple. You got not bad history necessarily, but bad history.
Yes, you do.
He's struggling. He's struggling really hard to come up with compliments for New York right now. Geno is struggling mightily and trying to find any sort of compliment for New York basketball.
Geno's thinking
if they want to throw me a contract, I'll compliment them.
I would too. I mean, they wouldn't throw me the contract, but you get what I'm saying. So, you've been to March Madness twice, but when you were with Gonzaga, as I said before, you guys had that long run where you got to the Final Four. You played Texas Tech, and Jared Culver, I believe, right? I got that right. Yep. I think I got that right.
Jared
Look
Culver,
at me go. Big brain over here. But you guys play the Red Raiders and Jared Culver, and unfortunately get bounced. But you had the opportunity to go to the Final Four and play in Minneapolis, which is your hometown. How cool is that?
Yeah, so we actually lost in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four. So they beat us in. But No, I mean, still, it was a really cool opportunity, just to be in that situation, and it was just it was a lot different than my first time being there, and again, like just knowing that we had the opportunity to come back and play in Minneapolis was a pretty cool thing. It
Yeah.
was kind of a point that we rallied around as a team, and unfortunately, we came up short. Texas Tech played a great game. They're really well coached. They got really good players. But yeah, I think we just it was unfortunate for us because I don't think we played our best basketball that day. And but that's some of the fun of March Madness. You know, you don't get 7 games, you get one. And if you don't come out and give it your all that day and play your best, then you might go home early. And
Yeah, I mean, I completely botched the research for that
that was us.
question. I mean, that's completely on me. Like I said, a couple seconds ago, I said big brain, and then I followed that up by completely rambling off the wrong information. So I do apologize for that. But I guess we could have a conversation, or I'd like to have a conversation about the rigors of the March Madness tournament, because it's not easy to sit there and have any sort of longevity or success in that tournament. It's hard. There's 64 teams and one team wins. I guess, what was your experience? Was it fun? Was it difficult?
It's incredibly fun. I mean, you just get, especially when you're at, the bigger schools and you got fans that travel. So when I was at North Dakota and we lost in the first round to Arizona.
Yep.
And I think we might have had, I don't know, like 150 or 200 or something fans, they told us. And we couldn't even bring our own band. Like, they had to rent a band from a local high school or something and just give them free T-shirts and give them the sheet music for our fight song.
Is that what happens?
Yeah. So, like, a lot of the smaller schools, I guess, do that. And we were there. I think we brought like half of the cheerleading team. So we had like 3 cheerleaders. Don't even remember if they had the same outfits on. But I mean, then, yeah, it was it was crazy.
How do you pick them? You just pick the seniors?
That I don't know what they did, man. I'm
Put it in
guessing
the
they probably just sent out an email like, "Hey, I know you're on spring break, but if you want to come out to Salt Lake City, Utah for a basketball game, feel free." But
Spring break.
right. And then, but no, when you're at Gonzaga, I mean, you got fans are coming to every game. You're selling out your whole ticket allotment. You're playing in these huge NBA arenas. You get to travel. Again, cameras are on you all the time. You do all this media stuff. The media's in the locker rooms. You're doing, crazy interviews. And, I mean, it's a ton of fun. You're just getting to spend time on the road with your team, especially, I think, when you get up there a junior or a senior and you know that these are probably your last couple times out with your guys. I think it's a ton of fun, and it's an experience that, I don't think it can really be matched by anything. I love March Madness. I love watching it. So being a part of it is, it's that times 10.
And we love gambling on it.
That's true. That's true. And so I was gonna say, outside of doing this podcast, which I so diligently I'm so diligent with, I do play-by-play and color commentary for the college that I attend. It's North Central College, D3 basketball, and I got to experience March Madness live this year. Now it's not to the grandiose level that D1 is, but the D3 was held at my college this year, and I got to call the round of 32 and watch a 12-point comeback in the final 4 minutes, and it just means more. Like, you could see a 12-point comeback and be like, wow, that was really cool. But when you add the extra onus on it to say, like, this is madness, it's so cool. And I can only imagine what it's like to play in those games, man.
No, I agree. That's awesome that you got to experience that. And I think it's just kind of part of the mystique of March Madness is that whatever, all the sayings, it's March, anything can happen, whatever. It somehow it just comes to fruition every single year. That something crazy is going to happen. You hope it doesn't happen to you. And
right.
I mean, it's just it's insane. It's insane. All the upsets, the buzzer beaters, the comebacks, all of that is just. I think it's the best sporting event in the world. I love March Madness. It's crazy. It's so fun. You get like 3 weeks out of the year where you just locked into college basketball and can't wait to see what happens next.
Right. And then when you're a fan like us, sorry, Cub, I got one more thing to say. My bad.
You're good.
When you're a fan like us, like Cub said, we love to bet on it. But like, I remember specifically last year, and I would set up 2 computers, I would have a TV in front of me, and I'd be watching 3 games at once, just scanning back and forth, which probably is part of the cognitive dissonance that I'm having right now, trying to remember when exactly which team got bounced out. So I'm just going to continue to make it a joke while we're recording. I'm going to continue to make it a joke so that I can feel better about myself.
No, it's all good. I think in my mind, I just tell myself that we won that game all the time anyway. So
There you go. There you go.
So Gonzaga has a long history of making deep runs in the tournament, but they can never get over the hump and win it all. What do you think as a program they need to do to get over that hump?
I think it's just, I don't think there's anything that needs to change. I think it's just, staying the course, biding our time, doing what's worked for us. Obviously they had the run in 2016 where they lost in the national championship to Carolina. And if we get any Zag fans that are going to comment on when you post this, then you're just going to hear about the bad officiating and everything that went into that game. But no, it's hard. It's hard to win. Especially like you said, you get to March Madness, there's 64 teams. I think realistically, probably anywhere from 6 to 10 teams have a shot at winning it, like legitimate shot at winning it every year. And when March starts, you just have to be perfect. You have to play a perfect game 6 times in a row. And it's hard. It's really hard. So, obviously Gonzaga, the runs, started in, 98. And, Coach Few has been able to build that program into a powerhouse every year, basically out of nothing. And so, again, it's just biding our time. All the teams that have won have been, big name schools for 60, 80 years. Some of these schools won their first championships in like 1912. Like, and you're considering a school that just had its first NCAA run in '98. Like, we're on a great timetable to be where we're at, and they're bringing in a great recruiting class this year. They were finished number 1 in the net this past season, had a really good chance at winning the championship if everything that went down hadn't went down. But I mean, it's coming soon, and I think it'll be a huge gratification and the sense of that we belong to a lot of fans and maybe a lot of alumni. And so I'll be excited when it happens. But, people always talk about how Gonzaga's overrated and whatever because they haven't won one yet. But, I mean, it's really who has,
Right.
Who has won recently?
I would assume if you broke down all of the March Madness tournaments and you added up like the power schools, right? I would say that they've won a good percentage of the tournaments. So at a certain point, you start looking at things and saying like, well, how much success have we had in the tournament? And when you talk about from 1998 until now, well, Gonzaga's had a lot of success. So I would say that, I mean, it is a good program. It's recognized as a good program for a reason because it's been successful for 2 decades. So
absolutely, yeah. And it's like if you look at sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, if you look at winning percentages since 98 in the tournament, Gonzaga's the highest. You got 5 straight Sweet 16s. No other program in the country has done that. Like, the numbers speak for themselves. It's just about, winning the last one. Everybody wants to win their last game of the season. And, that's just like you said, the hump that GU hasn't gotten over yet.
A wise man said, numbers don't lie. Check the scoreboard.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
How far do you think this year's team would have went? Because I kept my eye on them every game they played because they covered every time I put money on them. So, guys, look at Gonzaga, they cover every time. I don't care if it's minus 32. They're going to cover.
That's actually fun. Me and a couple of guys that were on the team last year that graduated as well would joke about it. Like, just the next day we'd wake up and see the scores and like, man, how do they cover every single time? Like, and it'll be right there on the line, and we're like, what in the world? But no, I think I was watching. I think at the beginning of the year, I think a lot of people had lower expectations just because of what we lost coming into this year. But I think the transfers that they brought in did a huge job of stepping up. The returners that had, huge leaps over the offseason to be able to fill gaps that were needed to be filled. And obviously, personally, I think Mark Few is the best coach in the country. And I think all the assistants, I think they have the best coaching staff in the country as a unit. So, I was impressed. I think they would have been able to make it far. just looking at the landscape of college basketball this year and how there weren't, outside of maybe Baylor and Kansas, and I would probably throw Gonzaga into that. I don't think there were any really dominant teams. So I think that anything could have happened. And if there was a shot, at winning the title this year would have been as good as any.
Literally, number one changed every week.
Right. Yeah.
It felt like nobody wanted it.
Yeah, it was.
Like, hey,
it
you
was
can
just,
have it for a
nobody
while.
wanted to be number one. As soon as somebody got number one, they lost. It's like, you know what? We'll just be number two, and we'll see you in March. But yeah, it would have been a really fun tournament to watch. I was really looking forward to it.
So Gonzaga has a lot of famous alumni. Adam Morrison probably being one of the most famous outside of John Stockton. Have you ever met Adam?
Yeah, he does radio for all of our home, actually all of
No
our
way.
home and road. So he would travel with the team.
Has he ever mentioned his Apocalypse bunker?
I haven't personally talked to him. I know it's come up and like guys would mention it, and but no, I have. He's just a really cool guy though. I mean, he's a really cool guy, and it's awesome. I think that we get to be around him all the time, because he's a college basketball legend. Like it's so for me, like the first time meeting him, I think I was kind of I remember watching him like, and I don't even know, what was that like 06 maybe or something like that?
I think it was 08.
Yeah, like watching him and him and JJ Redick were probably the two best players in college basketball, and like, so it was really cool getting to be around him and getting to talk with him and learn from him a little bit.
I'd have been like, oh, dude, I remember your mustache.
Right. he keeps a pretty clean shave now, but the mustache was legendary, and the big T-shirt.
Yeah, in the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he was awesome.
He was awesome. And I'm sure, Cub, I'm going to beat you to your next question because I'm sure I know it. So I go by Sauce on the podcast, but they also call me John Stockton because I'm a pretty consistent wingman out here dishing dimes to my boys. You know what I mean? So we're curious. We're curious. In your year at Gonzaga, did you get to meet the all-time assist leader?
Yeah, actually, when I was on my visit, when I was being recruited and I was on my visit, we walked in. They were showing me around the practice facility, and he just happened to be in there getting some shots up with his kids,
just hanging out,
and his grandkid. Yeah, just hanging. I mean, the weird thing about Gonzaga is like there's just like this weird like just family atmosphere. Like it just seems like everyone's always just hanging out.
Okay.
Like so. Yeah, no, I met him on that day, and then his daughter played for the women's team while I was there, and she was really cool, and I met his sons and his other daughters, and he's just a really cool guy. He's at every game. He's always there to give advice. He's like, if you need help with anything, let the coaches know and they'll get in touch with me, or you can have my number and you can get in touch with me. And he's a really good guy, obviously a really good basketball player, but
yeah, I mean, he's okay.
So
you said he was shooting around when you went on your visit. Was he wearing the shorts that were right here?
No, he was in jeans and a t-shirt. He was really casual. Really casual.
Dang.
So let's steer this back on the right direction. College is over. You didn't get drafted, but you have the opportunity to play in the Czech Republic in their top pro league. How difficult has it been to assimilate over there? Because the only American that you have on your team is DeMonte Dodd.
Yep. So I actually had one other American, Sean O'Brien.
Okay.
He played at Southern Illinois. But I mean, people are like coming and going. All those leagues are crazy. But
the most recent roster, I guess I didn't look at the most recent roster, but the roster that popped up when I typed in.
Okay, yeah.
When I at least attempted to type in the name of your Czech team. That's the one that popped up. It said it was just Demandre.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I'll say it was kind of tough at first, honestly, because I mean you go over there and don't speak the language, don't know anybody really. So I'd say those are probably the two toughest things. And then just I don't know, there's just kind of a way of life change where you're used to going to school, going to workouts, doing all this. Over there, I would wake up at 7 or 8 in the morning, go to the gym for our first practice, eat lunch, go back home and have nothing to do until like 3 p.m. when we're having our second practice. Then after that, have nothing to do again until I go to bed. So And like, I don't know, I wasn't huge into like walking around just because I didn't want to get lost. Didn't
Right.
want to say the wrong thing to somebody, not knowing what I'm saying, and like
Scooped up by the
so
Czech
it's
mafia or something like that.
don't want anything. I'm just like, yeah, I'm here to play basketball and get paid. So
What was like the first thing when you got over there? What was something you're like, oh, they do it like this here? Okay. Is there anything like that?
Okay, when I first got there, I got picked up from the airport by one of the assistants, and like we drive into town, and like, he's like, here, we're gonna have lunch, and then we'll go to practice. And we sit down for lunch, and like first they just bring out a huge like bowl of soup, and I'm like, it was like 80 degrees out. I'm like, what are we having soup for? and then like I guess that was just the appetizer, and then we come back the next day and there was soup again. So I'm just like, y'all eat soup every day? And they literally soup every day for an appetizer. I'm like, we only eat soup like if we're sick or something.
You can get a nice bowl of cream of chicken, or you can get chicken noodle soup.
Like, and they had so many kinds of soup. Like, it was a new one every day. I'm just like, man, I don't even know what's in this, but I'm gonna eat it, whatever.
Well, and that kind of leads me into the next question, because I'm a big guy. I love food, and so I always feel the need to ask our guests about food. What's the one thing that you've kind of stumbled into over there that you're like, okay, I like this? Because I would assume you try some things and you're like, this looks decent. You try, you're like, maybe not.
Okay, yeah, no. Beef tartare. Like, I had never had that before, and we had like a team like meeting / party or whatever, and like it just looks like raw beef. I'm like, why are y'all eating that? I don't. It's just like, they're just like, you got to try it. I'm like, I'm not interested in that at all. And I'm like, you know what? I'm over here. I got to try at least. And I tried it, and I actually liked it like a lot. Like, I was surprised.
I'm gonna have to get some imported when COVID's all said and done. I'm gonna at least give it a try.
When it's all over, you got to try it.
Or hear me out. Hear me out. We've got some business that we need to conduct in the Minneapolis area coming up. Maybe if we catch you at the right time, you could just bring it with you. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm just thinking out loud.
Definitely. I can try my hand. I like to consider myself some kind of a cook. So I can try my hand at a beef tartare dish for you.
And the address is what? Oh, we'll bleep it.
Yeah, no. Okay. I'll text it to you. We'll set it up.
For sure. Got you. Biggest difference between playing basketball here and basketball overseas?
I think that, I think you hear a lot about like physicality and stuff. I think there's like two different kinds of physicality. I think here we're allowed to use our hands a lot more, especially defensively. Okay. I think you can kind of, bump people a little and like try and poke at the ball. And if you like tap somebody a little bit, it's whatever. Who cares? They're not going to call a foul every time you touch somebody. I think over there, like literally, if they see your hands touching somebody, like it's a foul. You have to be all body, like
social distance.
So, social. You either got to give them space or you just got to hit them with just your chest. Like
okay.
You can't touch them with your hand. Like at all, or they'll call a foul. So that was probably the biggest challenge for me, because that was kind of my thing. In college, I was really good defensively. Like I was just really handsy. I was able to poke and prod at the ball and whatnot. And then over there, I just, especially early in the season, I just kept fouling out of games. I'm like, I'm not doing nothing wrong.
What's the trash talk like over there?
Oh yeah, that's probably a good question.
So,
you can't even understand
actually, like, no, I feel like most of the basketball players at least have a working understanding of English.
Okay.
So, like, a lot of them can speak them. Some of them not too well, but like they know the bad words for sure. So I mean, the guys that talk trash that can speak better obviously will talk more. But even some of the guys who can't speak English well will still like throw a B word at you or something like that, and it's like,
that's not nice.
Like you haven't said a word in English. You haven't said a word in English all game. Yeah, you're just and they got a heavy accent, and you're just like, damn, Sounds like you mean it. Like
He sat on Google the night before.
yeah, before the game, he's
He
like,
was
I gotta figure out what I'm gonna say to this guy.
Yeah. Having Google read it back to him, he was like, beach. Beach.
He had his only American teammate tell him one cuss word before each game.
That's all they need to know.
Right.
Literally, literally, the guys on our team would just ask us, like, how do you say, like, just ask us certain words or phrases, and it's nothing normal. It's all bad stuff. That's all they want to know.
Do you ever like, if they're asking questions about what it's like in America, you ever like mess with them and be like, oh, dude?
I actually haven't, but should I head back over there next season, I might have to fib a little bit.
Start spreading fake news, bro.
You just start making them think that like just the crazy, like, yeah, man, our cars over here don't even touch the road.
They just fly. We're out here flying.
So Geno, you have a Cameo account. What's the weirdest request you've gotten so far?
Oh man, I don't think I've gotten anything too weird because I actually was off of it for like 4 months, 5 months, and I just remembered my password like 2 weeks ago. I need to get back on there so I can make some money.
He woke up in the middle of the night. He was like, "Oh."
No, I checked my email and I had like 7 or 8 requests like in a row, and so I'm like from different people. I'm like, was I on the news or something? Like, why did all of a sudden people want to start paying attention to me?
Yeah.
And then I remembered, I was like, because like I think I started and it was like $5 because I was like, oh, I don't even like nobody's gonna request me. And then the first week I had it, like I think I had like 5-10 requests. I was like, oh, okay, well I'll just bump it up to like $10. And I got like 15-20 requests that next week. I'm like, all right, let's see what happens if I do $20. I'm like,
No, you're worse.
so,
You're that bad.
Yeah. So I'm like, I mean, if I would give them videos for free, but if they're willing to pay, I'm not gonna say no.
Geno, that leads us to our very next question. Can we get a Cameo for the pod? You just walk right in.
Ruined your business model. You just ruined your business model, bro.
Just gave the secret away, man. Damn, I'm gonna have to come up with a fake name or something and start a new one. No, but absolutely, I could do that.
You could just go by Ruri Achimura.
Yeah, I'll just have that be my fake name.
Never mind. I got a bad joke, but I'm gonna keep it to myself. Let
it go. Let's hear it.
Now you gotta let it out.
I mean, it wasn't bad in the sense of like you shouldn't say it. It was bad in the sense of like it was dumb.
Funny.
And I'm not doing that. Not on my podcast. So you got the Twins hat on. We know you're from Minneapolis because I said it twice, now 3 times. We're interested to know, what is your Mount Rushmore of Minnesota sports? Like athletes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All right.
We ask the tough questions here.
I got to go Joe Mauer. Local kid. Football and baseball, All-American in high school. All-State for basketball. And then obviously did what he did with the Twins. Got to go Joe Mauer. Randy Moss, for sure. Randy Moss and KG.
You got one more.
Ooh.
Oh, man, I don't.
Ooh.
Probably Kirby Puckett. I'll probably have to go Kirby Puckett.
Oh!
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So we talked about this question.
I'll probably have to go Kirby Puckett.
We talked about this question beforehand. We're like, what do you think it'll be? And I was like, I mean, it'll probably be Randy Moss. Joe Mauer's probably going to be on there. Cub says, if he doesn't say Kirby Puckett, he's not from Minnesota. I was like, yeah, but Kirby Puckett was early 90s. He could say Dante Culpepper because that was a thing. You know what I mean? You could have gone a couple different ways. So now you are officially like Cub really likes you now. Good job, man. I don't know if that means anything to you, but Cub really likes you.
Well, I'm glad I passed the test. No, I'm glad I passed.
Who was the guy growing up where you were like, I like this guy. Like, this is my favorite guy. Was it Garnett? Was it Mauer?
Ooh, probably KG. I liked KG for sure, but probably like my Randy Moss was my guy.
Okay. Yeah.
I love Randy Moss. He just had so much swagger. Like KG, he had a swagger to him, but like he was just like just worked so hard and like crazy intense kind of guy. And Randy Moss was just like, I'm better than you. Like he was just kind of, you know, he has those quotes where he's like, 84 don't stretch on game days. Like I don't gotta go out here and stretch. I'm just gonna step on the field when it's time to go, and I'm gonna beat you. You know.
Yep.
So I probably Randy Moss. I wanted the cornrows like Randy Moss. When he had the afro, I wanted to wear an afro. Like he was the guy for me.
Oh, I couldn't wear the cornrows or afro, but I always wanted to be a trash talker. I always wanted to be a trash talker just like Kevin Garnett. Like growing up, I discovered Kevin Garnett when he went to the Celtics. So I never really got to experience the Timberwolves Garnett. But now that the internet exists, I go back and I listen to some of the things that he's allegedly said on the basketball court. I was like, I aspire to be that level of petty.
No, for sure. From what I hear, he's not a nice guy when he's on the court. I've heard he's a great dude off the court, but when he's on the court, nobody's his friend. He's not a nice guy.
Can we talk about how he keeps his hood up on his head? Can we talk about that?
I wish I knew, because I don't understand. It's got to be taped.
Like moving around too.
Yeah, all the time. It's got to be taped. That's the only way it could stay up.
His hair is like sandpaper. No way. No way. Bro, you're playing like one-on-one at ESPN. There's no way.
Yeah, and it doesn't come off. He's bald. There's no way his hair is keeping that on. Like I don't know how he does it. I don't know.
Geno, this has been a lot of fun. We'll wrap up with the question that everybody's dying to know the answer to. Number 0. It's such an intriguing option of a number choice. What's the psyche behind it?
I think when I was going to North Dakota, 25 was my number in high school, and that somebody had that already, and he was a senior. I was like, I'm not even gonna bother asking. Like, I'm not even gonna bother asking. He won't. And then I asked. I was on the phone. I'm like, all right, so what numbers like are available? And the coach just starts at 0 and counts up, and the first one is 0. I'm like, yep, 0.
That's fine.
I'm like, yep, that works. But I mean, I don't know it. I think it looks cool on the jersey now too. Like I'm like, oh, I think that's what it was. Like I was like, oh, do 0, and then I seen it and I was like, oh, it looks kind of nice. It was either that or like do something outrageous like a 55 or something. And I don't think I'm big enough to pull off a 55.
Dude, with basketball numbers that go above like 35, it just looks disgusting. Unless you're Dennis Rodman with 91, then you're fine.
He can do whatever he wants. I don't think anybody will ever tell Dennis Rodman no to anything.
Anything above 35 makes you a psychopath. Like Rodman, Ron Artest. I'm trying to think of more, but like, anything above
at one point.
Who?
Rodman had like 71 when he was on the Mavs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's had some numbers.
Yeah, well, numbers. Geno Crandall.
I just said that.
Geno Crandall, we appreciate you coming on the podcast. Now is the time. If you have anything that you would like to plug, social medias, anything like that, if you got a message you want to send to the people, here's a shot to shoot from the hip.
Oh man, I got nothing.
That's fair.
I'm not a spontaneous guy. I'm just not able to like spit something out. So it's
I got nothing. I got nothing too. I'm in the same boat. I got nothing. Cub, you got something?
Got nothing.
I can just say thanks for coming on again for the billionth time. We're going to thank you probably 6 more times post-interview. So, again, thank you. It means more than you know.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for having me, man. I've had a ton of fun. Anytime. If you guys ever run out of people and need to double back on somebody else, I'm available. I love chatting. Yeah, I love just chopping it up. I get it. I'm working on trying to start my own podcast about some things, and I understand the trials of finding guests. So.
And it's I don't know if for you starting the podcast is a thing of like, how do I start it? But it's as simple as get an Apple laptop, we use GarageBand, dude. Like it's as simple as that. We use GarageBand, and we're 101 episodes in. So just do it. Just do it, and you figure it out as you go. We had a segment on our very first podcast called Stephen A. Has Something to Say, where we both tried to do our Stephen A. impressions, and it sucked. It was awful, Geno. But you learn as you go, and you figure it out. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time, but yeah, we've definitely had our mistakes. I mean, we're 101 episodes in, and I said that you guys went to the Final Four and you got eliminated in the Elite Eight. So that's where we're at. Again, Geno, we thank you for coming on, brother. And if there's a next season, because I know you said if you go back to the Czech Republic next year, good luck.
Yeah, I think it's just it's just a matter of I'll be playing. I just don't know when. So
I got you.
So
I got you. All right. Well, we'll be watching. Just remember,
sure, I appreciate
Big Brother's always watching.
Always.
Geno, thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.